All right, today we're going to dive into a really powerful book called Master Your Emotions by Thibaut Meurisse. Think of it as a super practical guide for figuring out why we feel the way we do, and more importantly, how to take back control.
So let me ask you something. You ever have one of those days where it feels like your emotions are totally in the driver's seat and you're just along for the ride? One minute you're feeling great, you're getting stuff done, and the next, bam, you're spiraling into anxiety or getting frustrated over something tiny.
Yeah, if that sounds familiar, you are definitely not alone. And the big takeaway here, according to the author, is that it's not your fault. It's not some kind of personal failing. The real reason we struggle with this stuff, it's probably not what you think. So, the first thing we got to do is figure out what's actually going on. Why do our emotions feel like they have this, this almost mystical power over us? If we want to get back in the driver's seat, we first have to understand the car we're driving, right? And this is where we get to the big aha moment in the book, the real root cause of all this emotional struggle. It isn't about your personality. It's not about a lack of willpower. Nope. It's about biology. It's all about how your brain is fundamentally wired from the get-go. And here's the line that just changes everything. Let this one sink in for a second. Your brain's primary job is not to make you happy. Its number one job is to make sure you survive. Man, when you really get that, it explains so much about our day-to-day struggles. You see, this whole survival-first mission leads directly to something called the negativity bias. Think about it. For our ancestors, spotting that tiger in the bushes was way more important for survival than, say, admiring a pretty sunset. That ancient wiring is still running the show today, making our brains like Velcro for bad news and Teflon for the good stuff. And right there, that's the fundamental conflict we're all dealing with. Your brain is constantly scanning for threats to guarantee survival. But what do you want? What are you working towards? Happiness? A lot of the time, those two goals are pulling in completely opposite directions. This is exactly why we all fall for that one day I will myth. I'll finally be happy when I get that job or when I buy that house. But the book talks about this thing called hedonic adaptation, which basically means our happiness levels almost always return to our personal baseline even after huge wins. Our brain's default survival setting just kind of pulls us back down. Okay, so that's the problem. That's the diagnosis. But this is where things get really empowering, because we are not just victims of our ancient biology. The book lays out this awesome practical toolkit, a set of levers that we can actually pull to consciously change how we feel. And these are all things you can actually control. The amount of sleep you get, your posture, the words you choose to use, your breathing, your surroundings, even the music you put on. These are your levers. These are the tools you can start using literally today to manage your inner world.
I mean, let's just take one of them, your body. Just the simple act of standing up straight, pulling your shoulders back into a more confident posture, that sends a direct signal to your brain that can literally change your mood and lower stress hormones. It's a physical lever that has a real chemical effect. So cool.
Okay, so beyond those day-to-day adjustments, the book gives us this incredibly simple but really profound formula for how a tiny little thought can snowball into a massive, overwhelming emotion. It's really just a 3-step process. First, something happens and we create an interpretation of it. Second, we identify with that thought, we decide this is true. And third, through repetition, just thinking it over and over and over, we turn it into a deep-seated emotional pattern. But here is the game changer. The place to step in isn't at the end when you're already drowning in that feeling. All the power is right there at step 1. The event itself is just neutral. It's our interpretation that gives it meaning. So if you can change the story you're telling yourself about what happened, you can completely change the emotion that comes after. And this idea leads to a huge shift in how we see our feelings. What if negative emotions aren't actually the enemy? What if they're more like an internal guidance system, just trying to give us a heads up? So when you feel anxiety, that's just a message. It's telling you that you might be interpreting something in the future as a threat. When you feel anger, it's a message that you're probably interpreting a situation as unfair. The emotions themselves aren't the problem. They're just the alarm bell telling you to check your interpretation. And this all leads to probably the most important idea in the whole book. You are not your anger. You are not your sadness. You are the awareness, the consciousness that is experiencing these feelings. They're just visitors passing through. They're not who you are.
So if we can really accept that our emotions are just temporary signals, not our identity, it leaves us with this incredibly powerful question. It puts the control right back where it belongs, with you. Knowing you have the power to choose your interpretation of the world, who are you going to choose to be today?
Subscribe now for more book summaries.